I read 7 books in the month of April, so let's chat about it. I had 1 5-star read and 1 6-star read. Like my first 6-star read in probably almost a year. It has truly consumed me and I cannot wait to talk more about it. Most of my books were read on my Kindle. I will be honest, a lot of those books are kind of just like props because it looks weird if I'm like, I read 7 books in the month of April. It's like, what? That doesn't look like anything. It's not as eye-catching, let's be honest. I try to keep all of my reviews and the wrap-ups of my month as spoiler-free as I can. Be really good about like having some sort of a note in all my videos before I talk to maybe like skip ahead to X amount of time. But I'll never share any plot twists or anything like crazy like that. To start the month, I read Phantasma. My sister-in-law actually encouraged me to read this book because she had just finished it. And I will say it was a pretty good time. I read it really more just for the vibes. It's not like a groundbreaking earth-shattering plot that you're following. It's similar to some other books, but the vibes were just really fun. I'd say that the vibes of Phantasma were similar to if the Carabao series and Saw or the Squid Games had a baby, like that would be Phantasma. Yeah, I know. A little crazy. I really enjoyed the ambiance being in New Orleans. Typically, I don't like when fantasy books take real world places and put them into their books, but in this situation, it very much worked. Main male characters also like Danny Phantom, but like aged up and like hotter and more muscular and like spicier. Yes, that Danny Phantom that we all loved growing up, that is what this main male character reminds me of. Silver hair, green eyes, he is a phantom. Like, what more could you say? Definitely see where the inspo came from. I then read The Beauty of Darkness, which is the 3rd book in the Remnant Chronicles, the final book in the trilogy. And this entire trilogy just got better as you went. It is all on Kindle Unlimited, which I thought was a huge plus. I wanted to throw my book across the room with 20% left. I was like, there's no way if this doesn't end up on a freaking happy ending or something positive happening here, I'm gonna throw up and I'm gonna be so upset. Like, what? Like, was honestly about to rage, and if you read this series, I think that you'll understand what I'm talking about. I will say that what happened to the Commissar felt right. Felt real right. I feel that the Commissar is like the quote that goes something like, you started as a hero, but you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That quote literally encompasses that man. I listened to I'm Glad That My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy on Audible. As I mentioned in last month's reading wrap up, that I'm trying to get better about reading more memoirs or just nonfiction works and trying to just incorporate that into my reading experience. It's really making myself a more well-rounded reader, you know? While it's not my favorite memoir that I've ever read, I do think that the topics that are discussed are incredibly important to discuss. It opens the door even more towards talking about really uncomfortable things and really complex icky dynamics between children and adults. As a mom myself, I cannot imagine treating my baby this way. When she's explaining what her mom was like and just the classic, just narcissistic, really toxic dynamic between them was making me viscerally angry. I actually had to stop listening on multiple occasions and like take a big break because it was making me really upset, angry, and just like sick feeling. Like all the icky feelings that you can have towards these topics come out in this book. So it is a really uncomfortable read. I dropped when she was talking about the weight loss and like trying to delay womanhood happening. It actually like almost makes me teary-eyed because we, like as a woman, like these are things that we have to go through, but to have like your parents perpetrate that onto you is just like really so foul. Like there's just like no other way to describe it. Moving on to some happier discussions though of books before I start to get angry again thinking about that one. I finally read the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. I have never read a Cassandra Clare book before, and I'm so glad that I started with this series. In fact, I've heard from a lot of other people that this is one of their favorite series by her. Will, James, Tess, like I love them, but have such complex feelings towards their dynamic as well. I usually am not a fan of love triangles in books. After a while, they just get very tiresome and start to kind of rub me the wrong way. But in this situation, I actually really enjoyed the way that it was written. I almost felt at times that this was like a little like Stefan, Damien, Elena type of dynamic happening. Especially like with the first book, Will just really gave off that Damien type vibe where it's like, you're really awful and I kind of hate you, but it's also making me love you. I feel like only in reading is that ever acceptable, because like in real life, if my husband was like that, I'd be like, get out. Ending of the first book immediately had me purchasing the second book, and then obviously after I finished the second book, I was immediately purchasing the third book. I think that Tessa's shapeshifter abilities are super interesting. The second book was just Wow, truly wow. It was a 5-star read for me. This was my 5-star read of the month. Second book of this trilogy was so good. I felt anger, joy, betrayal, like, and anytime a book is making me feel all of those things so strongly and I'm like sprinting to go and read that book whenever I have the free time, like it's a 5-star read. Easily. Plot and the character development in the second book was incredible. It really took off after that first book and just like kept going. It just got better and better. I audibly found myself saying, ah! And I feel like at some points I should have just been happy, but I felt as if it wasn't the right thing to have happen. If you read the series or you have read the series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The third and final book was a 4-star read for me. I think the second book, in my opinion, was the best in the entire trilogy, but this third book was a very satisfying and good end to it. I did wonder throughout this entire trilogy if the reason why Jem and Will felt so strongly towards Tess and both of them having that intense attraction towards her was because that they are linked as like warrior brothers, and then because they know so much about one another and are just so like linked on a soul deep level, if they then inadvertently feel the same way towards Tess because of that bond. What are the odds of just loving both of these men so intensely? You know what I'm saying? And quite honestly, maybe that's why I didn't bat an eye at the love triangle in this entire series. I was not expecting the little plot twist towards the end of the book that happened. Again, was not my bingo card for this entire series. I was also pleasantly surprised, which the very end of the book really had me sobbing. Like, it was beautiful, but also just really sad to think about everything that Tess has lived through. And again, that all makes sense if you've read the books or when you do read them. It just made me sad. Needless to say, it's a very circular ending. The final book that I read this month was a 6-star read. I am so in love with this book. So in love with it that I think that's why I didn't finish the second book in this month, because I was just prolonging and pushing out the ending of this world. Dance of Thieves truly was everything. But I don't think that I would have loved this book as deeply as I did had I not read The Remnant Chronicles first. The Remnant Chronicles sets everything up for this book. And I don't know why it's not talked about more by other creators who have read this book, or at least talking about how interconnected this world is. Not reading the Remnant Chronicles first would be like not reading Akatar before you read Crescent City. The impact is not the same. You have to understand the lore that got us to this story. Because quite honestly, I think that if I hadn't read those books first, I would have gone into this story feeling a bit confused and having a hard time grasping the world building that's going on. And everything would have felt more rushed, but because I understand why the story is happening, everything makes sense and the pacing of the book makes sense. I just love Kazi and Jace so much. I was actually getting chills and goosebumps on my arm while reading their dialogue exchanges. It just was so, it was making me kind of teary-eyed because I was like, I'm actually in love with these characters. Like, that is crazy. I love them. What is this, Kazi? Tell me a riddle, Kazi. I love it so much. I want to live in this world. Maybe not all the crazy extreme stuff that happens in this world, but I want to be friends with these characters. I highlighted a crazy amount of quotes and made so many notes throughout this entire book. Probably the most that I've made on any book in a long time, which is why, again, this was a 6-star read for me, and I haven't had one of those in like a year. If Mary E. Pearson has no fans, I'm dead, because I love her work. I could talk about this book forever, but then this video would be like an hour long and that'd be excessive. So I cannot wait to finish the second book. Highly, highly, highly recommend these books. March was the best reading month that I've had in a long time. Like, overall, one of the best months that I've had. I think everything except for the audiobook that I listened to was above 4 stars, which is insane. And quite honestly, I feel like April might top this month because I have some serious, huge anticipated reads coming out in April. I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait. I hope everybody had an amazing March reading month, and I'll wait to get into our April reads and talk about them at the end of next month. But until then, happy reading.